Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the October meeting. Glad to see so many of you joining us tonight. And I'm back again as president at the moment and getting on with the committee and doing a whole heap of jobs we've got lined up. A big thank you to all of the committee members for their ongoing support and getting all the work done. This month, we've obviously been working on a number of projects, including the multi-purpose building, which we'll hear about a little bit later, working on the rules. We've had some great feedback on that. Obviously, we've got COVID and we're still working with that, of course. Committee's been talking about rules and obviously we've had some good feedback. We've worked on it. We've got a subcommittee working on that and it's still a work in progress and we'll get back to you all a little bit further down the track once we know a little bit more. Any matters arising? If you've got any, just pop those up on chat as well. Since our last meeting, besides the things I've already commented on, I'm pleased to say that Geelong had their first Zoom meeting just in the last month, which is, when was it, a couple of weeks ago. Went really well. They actually had, I think it was well over 50 people attend. I don't know if that's a record for a while, but anyway, it's good. Great to see a number of Melbourne people joining that meeting as well. Look, Zoom has been a success for the club in a lot of different sections. I've been talking to a couple of the subcommittees about how they're using Zoom to get their day-to-day business done. Obviously, we as a committee are using it extensively and most of the meetings go really, really smoothly, no problems at all. Sometimes technical dropouts and glitches like anything, but in the main, it's been great. And as for these meetings, we also stream those to Facebook. So if you miss something or you got to go and do a pit stop during the middle, you can always call it up on Facebook and do a bit of a replay. Anyway, we'll obviously update you in due course. I encourage you to read the magazine. Thank you again for a fabulous magazine, Sandra and Brian, and Laurie for getting Flip Viewer onto it and doing all the links again, which I think is absolutely fabulous. It really brings the magazine alive, and Laurie's going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, which will be great too. So if anybody's got any queries or questions, please put them up on chat. Otherwise, we'll keep going.
Thanks for Ian doing the intro. As Ian mentioned before, he's going to get me to MC tonight's meeting and I will call each person in, so which is James Azam. For those who don't know James is Gabby and Grace's son. He runs his own business. He runs first aid training centre called Design First Aid Solutions. He's also a paramedic with Ambulance Victoria. So I'm going to show a quick 1-minute video just to show you what James is going to speak about tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is a very important month that's been called Shocktober, and it's an incentive that's being run by Ambulance Victoria to try and promote and get the word out to try and improve the survival rates of cardiac arrest. Over the last few months, we've seen quite a significant decline in survival rates from cardiac arrest, and this has been attributed to quite a number of factors. One of the main factors is that during lockdown, everybody has been at home, and so help hasn't been able to get to people at home in such a quick manner. The other issue is that working as paramedics, given the the PPE that we have to wear, that can also sort of delay our time to the patients as well. So we're trying to really promote this sort of Shocktober event to try and get everyone involved, to make sure everyone learns CPR and to make sure that everyone knows where they can access a defibrillator. Because those things together is really what's going to save a person's life. Survival rates have really declined, so we're trying to promote what is called the call, push and shock method to try and improve survival rates and get them up to around the 70% mark. So with your help, we can get survival rates up to the 70% mark. Now, if you have any questions, please send them through and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Okay. So what we're going to start off by talking about is the call aspect of the call, push, shock. So when it comes to calling an ambulance, first of all, cardiac arrests, they occur approximately 18 times a day across Victoria. And the survival rate is approximately 10%. So our role is to really try and push, is to try and increase the knowledge surrounding cardiac arrest so we can actually get it to around a 75% survival rate. And the key is being able to start CPR within the first minute or so of someone going into cardiac arrest. And that's where you as first aiders come into the picture.
I was playing soccer and I felt really dizzy.
My legs just gave out from under me.
I was turning blue and I had no pulse.
And then I had a cardiac arrest.
They tried to revive me and they couldn't.
Someone got a defib.
And started CPR.
The defibrillator restarted my heart.
If those guys hadn't been there, or if they hadn't been able to get a defib, I wouldn't have survived. That's for sure.
I was playing soccer.
All right. So what I want to quickly just remind you of, and I know a lot of you have done a first aid course before, but one of the main things I wanted to just remind you of is what actually defines someone as being in cardiac arrest. There's two main things that we need to look at. A patient who is unconscious or unresponsive, and a patient who is not breathing or not breathing normally. So those two things together is somebody who is in cardiac arrest. So basically their heart is not pushing any blood out. So somebody that is in cardiac arrest, so unconscious and not breathing normally, then we need to straight away call for help, which is 000. We need to push the chest and start CPR. And we need to get a defibrillator, connect it and use it as quickly as possible. So those three things together increases someone's chance of survival to about 72%. Now, obviously, 000, we want to be calling as soon as possible, putting the phone on loudspeaker and following the instructions that the call taker are going to give you. If you don't remember what to do, if you don't remember how to do CPR, that's okay. They're going to be giving you information over the phone. Also, at this point, I want you to be instructing somebody to go and collect the defibrillator. The second step, once you've called 000, is to start doing your compressions. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, do you remember how fast we need to be compressing? So how many compressions do we want to be doing per minute? That's something that you might have learned in your first aid course, and it's 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Some of you may wish to sing it, to do compressions to the song of Staying Alive or Row, Row, Row Your Boat, but making sure that we're trying to just maintain that 100 to 120 per minute. Now, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate to you where you do the compressions. Making sure when you're next to the patient, you're on your knees. You need to make sure that you're utilising your body weight. So generally in between the nipples, in the centre of the chest, using the heel of our hand. We're going to put that in the centre of the chest and using our body weight. And you need to make sure that you're pushing right down into the heel of your hand, keeping your arms nice and straight. When we compress, we need to be compressing 1/3 the depth of the chest. So you need to be pushing quite hard. The other thing you need to make sure you do is allow all the weight to come off the chest before your next compression. This is called full recoil. Okay. So that's about how fast. So about 2 compressions per second. Staying alive. I won't sing to you. Okay. Now, in the current climate of COVID, we are telling everybody not to worry about doing the breaths. So I just want you to be doing non-stop compressions at about 100 to 120 per minute until the ambulance arrives. So we're not worrying about the breaths at this stage. Now, the next part is the shock. So while compressions are going, you need to obtain a defibrillator and connect it as soon as it arrives. Ultimately, the only thing that's going to get this person's heart back into a normal rhythm where it's pumping blood is a defibrillator. So now I'm going to demonstrate the use of a defibrillator. So I want you to pretend that at the moment, someone is doing CPR for me. So this is just one particular brand of a defibrillator. There are others on the market. So you just turn it on with the on button.
Remove pads from package and apply to patient's bare chest.
Okay, so you take the pads out. Now on the pads,
To patient's bare chest.
there will be pictures to show you which pad goes where. Okay? So making sure you follow the instructions on the pads.
Plug in connector.
One pad goes up here on the right side, just above the nipple and below the clavicle, just here. The other pad goes over here on the side.
Plug in connector.
Once the pads are connected and it's plugged in,
Touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
it'll analyze the patient's heart rhythm. So you need to stand back.
Touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
Stand clear.
Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Shock advised. Charging.
So now making sure nobody is touching the patient. So hands away.
Shock now.
Then we're pressing the flashing button.
Shock delivered. It is safe to touch the patient.
And then we go straight back into our compression.
Start CPR.
Okay. Now, the defibrillator will automatically time 2 minutes. And every 2 minutes, it will do another analysis and it will decide whether or not the patient needs another defibrillation shot. If there is more than one person that can do compressions, ideally you're going to be swapping that person every 2 minutes, because after 2 minutes, you'll find that you become quite fatigued and your depth of compressions will start to diminish. Now, just quickly, if the patient is very, very wet or sweaty, you might need to just dry the chest. And if they've got excess hair on the chest, you may need to just shave it. All those things are located with the defibrillator. Now, these are the defibrillator pads. As you can see here, one pad goes over on the right side, like we said before, and the other one goes on the left side. So they're very clearly marked, so just follow the instructions on the pads. These pads can be used for 25 kilos and over, which is generally around an 8-year-old and above. These are the pads for a child, but in an emergency, use whatever pads you've got if it's needed. Now, the other thing that is really quite important, and it's been quite a game changer, and it's an initiative that's come from Ambulance Victoria. It's called the Good Sam app. If you haven't heard of this, basically it's a way that allows common people in the community, first aid trained, or paramedics and nurses and doctors to be able to respond if there's an emergency. For example, if someone in my street was to go into cardiac arrest, I would get a notification on my phone, and then I would be able to respond and start CPR until the ambulance arrives. This app is called Good Sam. If you wish to be able to respond and actually provide CPR, if you've got a first aid certificate, you would download the Good Sam Responder app. If you don't want to respond, you would download the Good Sam Alerter app. These apps actually show you where all the defibrillators are also located around you as well. So it's a really good app, and I do encourage you to download it. At the moment, it's not fully active in the metropolitan area of Melbourne, but it should be reactivated in the coming months just as things start to settle down. If there is a defibrillator in your workplace, then I encourage you to actually go to the Ambulance Victoria website and register that AED, because they will actually then be able to locate it and instruct someone to actually get it in the cardiac arrest situation. So if you haven't, please, in your workplace, wherever it might be, please go and register the defibrillator on the Ambulance Victoria website, and I can provide this information to you afterwards, just so you know how to go about it. So if you do have any questions about anything that we've gone through today, please send them through. Hopefully I can answer them very shortly. But ultimately, there is a first aid course coming up, which I think Liz will probably talk to you about. And it's a really good opportunity to be able to just refresh and learn the CPR and to practice, because practicing CPR does definitely make you much better at it. And also during the course, we cover CPR for children as well as infants as well. So it's a lot more in depth, but hopefully today was just to get you thinking. Don't be afraid to help. Don't be afraid to get out there and do compressions. And obviously the quicker we start, the more likely that patient is going to survive.
Well, thanks, James. That was absolutely fantastic. Having done first aid in the past, I know what you were talking about, and it's always good to get a refresher. We have time for a few questions, and I know there's already one or two already come in, so I'll ask James the questions that have come up already. Kim asked, what brand and type of defibrillator do you suggest in buying?
Yeah, so ultimately, all the defibrillators do the same job. And the job of the defibrillator is to basically reset the irregular rhythm of the heart and put it back into a regular rhythm. As long as the defibrillator has got Australian standards and approval, then it's pretty much okay to buy. Different brands, yes, but they should all do the same thing. I do have a couple of defibrillators that I do deal with and I do recommend, so feel free to get in contact with me and I can point you in the right direction.
Thanks, James. Julian Reid asks, how long do you perform CPR?
Good question. You need to be continuing your resuscitation efforts. So you need to continue with the CPR and continue with the defibrillation until either the patient starts breathing normally again or wakes up and says to you, get off my chest, or help comes and takes over, or if you're physically exhausted and you physically can't continue anymore. So they're the reasons that you can stop, but otherwise you just keep going with your compressions non-stop until the patient recovers or until help arrives.
Greg Edmonds asks, how long does the level 2 certificate remain valid for?
Provide first aid certificate, which the course code is HLT AID 003. That needs to be refreshed every 3 years, but your CPR needs to be refreshed every 12 months for that to fully remain current. So every 3 years, you'll do your full first aid, and every 12 months, you'll need to do your CPR training.
And Kim says he likes your presentation. James wants to know if you can have your contact details.
Make sure you book into the first aid course early next year. There'll be a lot more in-depth details, obviously, about resuscitation and other first aid aspects. Definitely, I think Liz will be talking about that today, so hopefully I'll see you there. And it's much easier to train people face-to-face rather than talking to an iPad. It'll be a very enjoyable day. And it's also more targeted to outback first aid as well. So we sort of tailor it to outback rather than just your basic first aid training.
Greg asks another question. Good Sam obviously tracks your location, but who has access and is location stored historically?
Good Sam does need your location and it will request to use your location at all times. The reason that is because if a cardiac arrest does go off, it needs to know where the closest responder is. So it does need your location at all times. This app is run by Ambulance Victoria. So I understand that there are some concerns surrounding privacy, but my understanding is that it's a secured app run only by Ambulance Victoria. And so I've been on it for the last couple of years and have had no issues.
All right, two more quick questions. Shane Hornby, is it recommended to carry a defibrillator in remote travel scenario? How long do they last?
Yeah, good question. Look, I think, and I'll be brutally honest, if someone goes into cardiac arrest and you're hours away from help, they're not going to survive. Ultimately, they need a defibrillator. So I do recommend that defibrillator is carried, and maybe if there's a convoy, maybe one particular person will be carrying the defibrillator during that convoy. Defibrillators themselves, they last basically forever. You'll need to replace the battery in them every 4 to 5 years and the pads about every 2 years. But otherwise, there's nothing you need to change. So the battery and the pads, otherwise the actual defibrillator lasts forever.
Julian Breed asks, is assisting covered by the Good Samaritan Act? What are the liabilities?
I'm guessing his question might be in regards to providing CPR and legalities surrounding CPR. The Good Samaritan Act as such isn't necessarily a law or as a form of defence, but nobody has ever successfully been sued in Australia for providing first aid. As a first aider, basically your role is to just do within your scope of practice. So CPR is definitely something you can do as a first aider. And for example, if you're doing compressions and you broke someone's ribs, you're not going to get in trouble because the repercussion of not doing CPR was that patient would not survive. So I don't want anyone to be concerned about the legalities. They're basically non-existent in terms of just providing first aid or doing CPR on a patient. What I always say is if you do CPR and the patient doesn't wake up and tell you to get off, chances are that they need those compressions.
Can you hire a defibrillator?
Yeah, I've definitely hired them out before, yes. I guess you just weigh up, is it better to hire it for, 2-3 trips a year, or is it better just to buy them? I mean, to purchase one, you're looking at just under $2,000. So I guess you can just weigh it up and determine, should we hire it a few times or should we just buy one? I guess it's a relatively large cost, but if you break it up over X number of people over X number of years, then it's really quite affordable.
And the last comment I've got comes from a guy called, I think you know him, called Gabby Azam. Says, thank you, James. Awesome presentation.
I think he just wants me to give him a shout out. So thanks, Dad. I love you. I appreciate it. I wouldn't be in this uniform if it wasn't for my dad. So thank you. You'll be happy with that shout out.
Okay, well, thanks, James. If anyone else has got any more questions, please feel free to put them up on the question and answer page or on the chat page and catch up with James later. We'll move on to our next video. It's the Mirambar Magic trip that Heidi and I ran in February this year. I'd like to thank Viv Gardner for editing the video together. Well done, Zulu.
Thank you. Great trip. Great trip.
That's it, the trip run finished.
That was excellent. Thank you.
Trez, you're enjoying the weekend?
It's been fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the weather's been great.
Oh,
The roads are actually quite good generally, aren't they?
And what about the driving?
My driving, I've forgotten how to get my vehicle into low drive, can you believe it? And I had the beep, beep, beep for about 10 minutes.
And then you finally worked, you had to be...
I had to speak to Heidi and say, don't tell the boys, but how do you get it into low drive? These things happen, eh? But I stick to figures, not mechanical things.
So aren't you lucky you got an instructor on our course that can tell you what to do?
I'm very fortunate, yes.
How do you find the Amarok?
It's good.
Good?
I don't have to worry about selecting low range, I just press the button.
Oh, really?
I've just got an off-road button, that's all I've got.
Off-road button?
Does the rest.
And does that mean it steers you off-road or?
I just do the steering then.
Okay. Prado going. Ranger.
Ranger's going well, just could use a little bit more ground clearance, but it's going well.
Yes, going all well.
All well? No problems?
No, not at all.
What are you enjoying so far the weekend?
Oh, the company's good.
The company?
It's good. The weather's been very good.
Yes, surprisingly good.
No rain yet?
No yet, yeah. What about the driving?
It's good, yeah. Yesterday afternoon was good, really good.
Well, once again, thanks to Viv Gardner for putting that video together for me. That was really great, Viv. Okay, we're up to our subcommittee reports now. So I'm going to call Chris Treble from Driver Training.
Good evening, everyone. At long last, we were able to get back up to the property on the 10th and the 11th of October, Saturday, Sunday. We had 4 participants attend, all from regional Victoria, accompanied by 4 regional instructors. So we set off, we had a good day. We were a bit worried about the weather. We thought the weather was going to be a little bit inclement, but it turned out to be really nice. We didn't get a skerrick of rain over the weekend, which was really good. However, there had been a lot of rain up on the property. There were some various branches and trees down when we did some of the drives, but in general, no, it was a good, successful weekend. So with the assistance from Barbara sent a list through to us the other day after the weekend. And we've got about, there's a total of about 11 members from regional Victoria that we're going to try and get through the system. They've been members for some time, so we're going to try and get them through the system with both their theory and practical sessions before the end of 2020. At this stage, that 11 there's a couple down our way that can't attend. So there's 9 possibilities. I've rung them all, made phone calls yesterday. They're all very eager to attend. We've got a theory night coming up early November, and we're hoping, depending on the response we get back for the theory night and those that can attend, we'll probably have to break maybe up into 2 groups, because we're still, from my understanding, we're still limited to 10, including the instructors, up for each weekend. So with 9, it's if we had the 4 instructors, or there's possible 5 instructors we might get, but we'd have to vary the numbers accordingly. But we might even squeeze another weekend in before we get to the end of the year, so we can get these final people through the gate from regional Victoria. Such it's a shame we've got a few more from Melbourne. That's what we need to catch up on. But while we've got the opportunity, we thought we might as well try and clean the books if we can by the end of this year. So that's the plan at this stage. So I'll be back to all those 9 people again tomorrow. I'll make contact with them again, and we're going to run our theory night hopefully on the 4th of November as such. And then a couple of weeks later we'll do the practical bit. If we have to, we'll run another one after, probably in early December. I think that's about it, unless there's any questions anyone's got. But otherwise, no, it's good to get back up to the property. The property's in pretty good nick actually, which was good. But there has been a lot of rain up there as such. But everything looked well and good. Thank you kindly, Larry.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're going to move on to the multi-purpose building. Eric Bishop is going to do a short report.
Thanks, Laurie. Okay. So basically what this is about is just a status report of where we are, where we're going, etc. The multi-purpose building is a club project. We constructed a new building at Yark. All the subcommittees and general members were consulted to validate their needs. So we've got a fair idea of what the scope requirements are. So we don't need to change anything anymore. A planning subcommittee was formed to prepare the concept design and cost estimates and the like, and get our approvals and planning phase permits and all that sort of stuff, which Andrew and Alan have done. It's been across the line with that stuff now. At the moment, Peter and Rob and I are effectively just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and going through a checklist with the planning stuff to make sure we've got nothing outstanding and we don't trip over our shoelaces down the track. So the progress was presented at monthly meetings for members' information and comment. A vote was conducted by the Executive Committee to verify the member support. Construction of the multi-purpose building will be treated as a capital project with oversight by the TLCCV executive. That's a $60,000 investment, so we need some close scrutiny on that to ensure our budgets are met. I'm the project manager, but Rob and Peter are on board with me, Rob Laversha and Peter Birchall. We basically work as a three-man team, so even though I'm the project manager, I'll be managing the logistics and so forth going forward, and Rob will be looking after administration and the like, and Peter will be working with me, managing teams and so forth, and also coordinating with Yark. So next slide, please, Rob. So this is just going back on history. This is where the building will be. The veranda will slot in with the breezeway there. So moving forward, there shouldn't be any further discussion relating to where that building goes. Nothing's moving, nothing's changing. So the plan moving forward now is we're completing all the administration matters and all the front end documentation process, so that we have all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. Peter Birchall, Rob and I are working through a procurement plan at the moment. So we plan to procure all the big ticket items up front and get input from the suppliers so as we know when stuff can be delivered, or if there's any need for members to assist in picking stuff up. We can, particularly those that are available during the week, our plan is to get as much done during the week as possible. Any questions right now? I'll take later on in general business. So that's the status as I see it.
Great, thanks, Eric. It was really good. Very impressed to see the overview about how things are going. Ian Ross would like to say a few words about Geelong, I believe.
Yeah, Greg said an apology for tonight, just to give you a bit of an update. Obviously, we had the Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago. That was really well attended and went very smoothly. We had a really good production. Thanks, Laurie, for emceeing that one and getting all of the information across. Just a reminder that the next meeting is coming up on the 10th of November, because obviously it's the second Tuesday of this month, of next month, sorry, because of Cup Day. And just a reminder that as with the weekend wraps, there's been nomination forms for the Geelong positions for their AGM that have been issued to everybody. Those nominations need to be in as soon as possible. So just make sure that you get your nominations in by that time, so that when the AGM runs, we can sort of kick it off. All right, that's probably about it, apart from to say that don't forget, because Geelong members are regional, we do encourage and hope that there will be some social activities continuance for the people in Geelong. And later on, once COVID's over, maybe we can join them from Melbourne. Over to you. Thanks, Laurie.
You guys at Geelong, can you please get your nominations in by the 26th of October? Okay, now I'm going to show you a short video I showed at the Geelong meeting, which is a basically showing you how the flip reader works. Ian hadn't realised just how it worked when I did that presentation, so I thought I'll show it to the main meeting so that you can all see what the flip reader is about. Flip PDF. If you ever go into TLCCV News and TLCCV Magazine, you'll see the flip reader. This is the September magazine. You go over the side here and page through the front page. Over here, it changes colour. If you click on one of those, it will take you to the page that you specifically want to see that report. So we could then go to the next page. You'll notice that if you actually click on that, it will bring up the YouTube video. You'll see over here, President's Report. There's a little click here to hear audio. And if you click on that, we'll start playing
a message from the TLCCV President Eric Bishop.
Okay, you click on it again, it stops it. Each month that'll have all that text in there, playing on that audio, so that if your glasses get a bit foggy, you can actually sit and listen to it. If we then turn the page, you'll notice down here, you'll see if you highlight it, it says video and it goes a red border around it. So there's a video from Piranha. So if I click on that, this is now going to YouTube, and I've got to actually give this audio on.
We've got a really good question, which is right up my alley.
And I'll just stop that. You might say, well, that's a bit small screen. Well, I just click on that box, I go full screen, and then I can go play again.
Which is basically about setting up your 4 drives electrics. What are the options?
And there's Alan Johnson talking about Piranha. You've got all your trips as per normal. You can click on the trip leader's email if you want to talk to them, or you can go directly to the trip on the website. Once again, unique. There's a little click here to watch their video down here. Once again, that's YouTube. I keep going in. When we get to the trips, this is where the plus comes in. This is a report that Michael Berg did for Yark when he went up there last month. So you might look here and say, well, I can't see this text. You can always double click on the page and it will actually go and drag it and actually read those click bigger. But and double click it again, it goes back to normal. But you can also say, well, hang on, I want to listen. So I'll say,
Yark Management Report.
I can listen to the report.
I just wanted to report back after a quick trip up to Yark.
And then you've got these pictures. You might say, well, I can't really see these pictures. Well, just click on it and you get full screen on the picture. When you're on that picture, you might think, well, how do I close it? You've just got to look right up in this top right-hand corner. There's a little X. Just click on it and it goes back. And so you can click on another one and up comes the picture. If you stay on that page, the audio will continue. If you turn the page, the audio will stop. So if I start that...
With Gary Cooper and myself,
and then
to do some emergency
picture,
maintenance to replace the security camera batteries, which had reported flat. This quick trip was a...
So you can see you can keep the audio going on the page that you're currently on. If you turn over, there's some more pictures there. Once again, there's an audio of that one. And there's some more pictures here. So you might say, hey, Maria Denny. Well, there you are, Maria. You're doing a great job there, cooking some fried rice. Lock your hubs. Now, there's 2 things here. You can click on that orange box and that will show you the picture, or you can click up there on that box and it'll give you the audio.
Friday, the 2nd of October.
There's the Grampians picture there. As I say, you can click on all those. There's the audio for the Grampians. And the snow trip, that one, there you go. We missed out on our snow trips this year. And once again, you've got the audio there. Sponsors, ARB, Intensity Solar's LED lights. There is a link there to watch their video on the solar.
Who doesn't love hearing about a new product? And today I've got one for you that I think a few of you are going to be really excited about. It's been 7 years since ARB introduced the Intensity driving light, the very first round LED 4x4 drive.
LED light. So there's ARB. And once again, there's a nice picture of the snow trip. and another trip there on Mount Robinson, which Paul Horton ran back in 2016. There's a clip there, the video for the Hilux. So that's the magazine. That's what I think it makes it quite dynamic to actually see the fantastic magazine that Sandra and Brian put together, and to see it online with the pictures enlarged and listen to the trip reports just gives a bit more excitement when we're at home locked in COVID. Okay, I'm going to call in Viv Gardner as trip convener.
Hi everyone, hope you're all doing okay. Robin Ellison Duff's trip this November has actually been cancelled due to COVID and the restrictions that haven't been lifted, and I know they're very disappointed, and so are all their participants. But Rob assured me next year it'll be up and running again. Out of all the 6 trips we've got on the club page, only 1 trip has vacancies. All the rest have been oversubscribed. Everyone's keen to get out and about. The one that's got vacancies is the El Dorado and Woolshed Valley that Chris and Greg Burr are running. Also, Chris assured me, I spoke to her today, the Walhalla trip has been quite popular, and so they're going to run another one. So anyone that misses out on the first one, they might be able to get dibs on the second one they're going to be running. That's all I've got to say for now. Hopefully next year we'll all be out and about, and all these trips that we have planned for next year will be able to run. Fingers crossed. Back to you, Laurie.
Okay, thanks, Viv. I'll call in Brian Stewart for a Yark report.
Place is looking great, nice and green, plenty of water. I was told that there was 102 mil in the rain gauge, but that's been quite a while since it was read prior to that. There's not a lot else to actually report at the moment. The guys are, our Yark management meetings. We're putting together a list of things to be done once we get back up there, and hopefully it's getting closer. But I just want to sort of put out there a special invitation. This was in the Overland Cruisering magazine in the mid 1992. I'll read this invitation out to you. It was in the magazine. It's Gumnuts Inaugural Nature Walk is happening on Saturday, the 24th. October's the month. 3 p.m.'s the time. Yark Hilton's the place. Won't cost you a dime. The cutting of a ribbon, drinking champagne will all be done in style. Not a waste of your day. The Reverend John O'Flaherty Orton, Magpie to us, will be master of ceremonies, and will he fuss. So come along, celebrate, walk a mile or two, look at the orchids, yam daisies and sundews. It's taken 5 years to get it all together, but the pleasures will be there forever and forever. And then a little note at the bottom says, I know I'm not a poet laureate, but I hope you will all be happy with the walk. And that was Joy. And a little note there about registering for catering purposes. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you people have been on that nature walk. You can see that on our club website. You can go in there and look at all the notes on that. Yeah, Joy put in a lot of effort into that. She had a lot of helpers as well. So it's certainly staying there forever, because that's 28 years ago now. Thanks, Joy. All right, thanks, Laurie.
Thanks, Brian. We're going to move on to Forge now for Cruisacana. Let him know what's happening with Cruisacana next year.
G'day everyone. Happy to be back here again. We had a conversation earlier in the year about Cruisacana and the event. We came together, and basically at that time we said we'd defer the decision around whether we'd run it next year or when we'd run it next year. We had that meeting at the beginning of the month as part of the subcommittee meeting, and we decided that we would reschedule the event for October next year, dependent on a number of things that needs to be in place for us to be able to do that. And one of them was that there's an easing of restrictions come March 2021 next year, so that we're able to travel to Yark and work in small groups to upgrade the event tracks, as well as we need to finalise a number of things around the competition. So that was the first dependency. The second dependency is that when tickets go on sale in June of next year, that would be that the restrictions would allow up to 150 people to congregate outdoors together. And so pending on that restriction, that allowing of us to do that, we would then go ahead with the competition, because in general, we have around 120, 130 people there on the weekend, with all the club members coming to volunteer and support us, as well as the competitors, makes up about that number of people. So we want to make sure that we've got that ability to do that. With the help of Laurie and his support team, we've put together a number of videos just showing past Cruzicana events. Back to you, Laurie.
Thanks, Forge, and I'll show you that little short video. This is 2006, the first year that we actually have some photos of Cruzicana.
That was great music, Laurie.
Yes, Corrine, I believe you love the music. You thought it was porno music and you love it. So there you go. You're getting a bit saucy there, Corrine. So I'm glad to hear that someone enjoyed the music. Let's move right along. Thanks to Forge for his report. And we'll move over to Liz now for an education report. Ms. Mills.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well and looking forward to some of the relaxation of the restrictions. Yes, I'm with Mr. President, but Zoom has been fantastic for this club this year, and education has managed to run a few courses. So that's been fantastic. And our next one is actually tomorrow night, the Fine Art Printing Workshop, which one of our club members is going to be presenting tomorrow. He has about 16 people involved with that. So I think that should be a bit of fun and some good things for them to learn. The next course the tyre repair course, of course, had to be changed to December. And that's full at the moment, but we actually have 6 people on the waiting list. I've spoken to David and Duncan, and they've said they would be very happy to run another one next year. It's just a matter of working out some dates with them and what dates are free at Yark. Now, first aid course, James, fantastic presentation tonight, really interesting. Now, the first aid course that the club is running is next February. At the moment, we're about half booked. Now, the next thing I have just confirmed yesterday is a photography course, and we're going to be running that on the 13th and 14th of March at Yark. So that should be a bit of fun. Obviously, all depends again on restrictions, what happens there, but keep fingers crossed. Things will be a lot freer by then, and we will be able to get that course up and running. Now, just one thing before I go, I would just like to thank the committee and the club very much for the lovely bouquet of flowers that were delivered to me in hospital. It's a bit of a slow process, but I'm getting there. So thank you very much. It lifted my spirits no end. Thank you very much. Back to you, Laurie.
I'm pleased to hear you're getting well slowly. Hopefully John's looking after you and moving you around and giving you all the cups of tea that you need. Okay, our final little video is a compilation of pictures put together from the 80s and 90s at Yark when the Bill's Bungalow was built, and then of course it burnt down, and then they built the Hilton. And this came about from 2 people, James Chivers and Brian Stewart, sent me some photos, so I put a little video together and we'll sit back and watch that. So once again, thanks to Brian and Jan for those pictures. Certainly great to go back over the history and see what happened, because certainly that was before I joined the club, 1996. So I got a lot out of that. I'm going to call Ian Ross in as president to handle the general business and questions and answers.
All right, so thank you, Laurie. Before we get underway with any questions, if there are any, just wanted to say thanks everybody for their contributions tonight. Isn't it amazing when you watch that video from the 80s and 90s and stuff that's happened at Yark? I mean, remember many working bees many years ago up there, probably not so much of late, but I've done my other work in other places. It's amazing how many times you put on a project and just everybody comes from everywhere, and it's also amazing how things sometimes just seem to happen. You go up one week and go up next month, and so much has happened. And hasn't that hut come a long way? And I think it's just an amazing thing. I often look up and say, my God, how big is it, and watch the people up on ladders that put it up, and they had a bit of guts. Don't know that I'd be doing that. But anyway, and the toilets. Isn't it great, the facilities now compared to back then? I just wanted to thank James for his talk tonight on AEDs. It's really important. Anybody that hasn't done a CPR or a first aid course, get in there and do it. And make sure you keep it up to date and current, because you never know when you're going to need it. Thanks, Laurie, for talking tonight about the flip viewer. I think the way that we can make a paperwork document just come alive, I think is just incredible. And having those links on our sponsors page really just, it gives an extra value add to our sponsors. That's really all I've got to say until next month. All right, well, look, with that, I'm just going to say goodbye. See you next month. Don't be afraid to give me a call if you've got any questions, queries, or you just want to chat. Even if you're feeling down or anything, I'm here. All right, good night. Talk to you later. Bye.